Okay, hi everybody. This is our June 23rd PWN Zoom call. So glad to see you all on, and I am really excited again to have Renee be our speaker today. I'm looking around the Zoom room, and I just wanted to introduce myself for those of you who don't know. I think all of you know me, Susan Dakuzaku, current president of PWN. I see Kay Pena, wave Kay. She's our secretary. And then Esther Lee, wave Esther. Everybody knows Esther. She's VP of membership, doing a great job because we've actually had 3 new members. I think you posted on Facebook.
Yes, we have Tacey Vogel, Janelle Tannehill, and Lindsay Lennoxon. She's on the call today too.
She's on the call today, so we're really excited to be growing during this time of COVID, when a lot of organizations and businesses are not so lucky. So feel very fortunate to be able to say that. So that really takes the logistics. We're going to have some announcements at the end of the meeting, but what I wanted to do was reintroduce Renee Balcom. Now, Renee and I have known each other for about 2 years now, I think going on 2 years. And she is a wealth of information in the healthcare industry. She'll tell you a little bit about her background, but she was our speaker 2 weeks ago during the live presentation, and unfortunately, we lost the Zoom call. So for those of you who are on the Zoom call, welcome back. Sorry about that. This should not happen again. But I thought her information was so valuable, I'll ask her to do an encore. So she's going to do an encore of some of the information she shared a couple of weeks ago, but also go into a few new things for those of you who this is a repeat for. So I want to pass this over to Renee Balcom. Introduce yourself and say hi to the gang.
Thank you. Well, hey, I'm always happy to see everyone's faces. Hi, Pat. I will say I love seeing everyone in person, because even though we couldn't hug and stuff, we could, toe bump or whatever anyone decided to do. Yeah, and it was just nice to have that personal touch. So, well, and I also want to thank the board of PWN for inviting me back, because the world of advocacy there's a ton of information to share with people. And in today's climate of COVID-19 and the pandemic, and God only knows what else is coming in our direction, it's really, really important to know and understand how to advocate for ourselves and for the people that we love. So I'm going to do, how many of you were in the other meeting? I think Lynn, you were there. Were you? Yeah, you were there, and Lindsay was there. I know that. And Esther, you were there, right?
No, not 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
But I was at SLN though.
Okay. Oh, right.
So
right.
just to let you know, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mute everybody in case your dog, like mine, starts barking in the middle of Renee's presentation. And if you have a question, either put it in chat, because I'll keep an eye on that, or raise your hand if you have your video on. If not, unmute yourself and say, hey, got a question, okay?
That's great. Hey, and Susan, did you get that slide that I sent over with all the pictures?
Oops, hang on. Yes, I did. Oh, hang on. You're muted now. I'm trying to unmute you. Are you trying to unmute yourself? There you go.
Yeah, I just did.
Both of us are clicking on it. So yes, I did.
Okay, can we put that up?
The first one or the last one?
Yeah, the last one you got.
Okay, so let me do a share screen.
Okay.
Okay, hang on.
So I have to say, this is the first time I've done kind of this kind of presentation in our little boxes. So I tend to move a lot when I talk. So, don't think that I'm flailing or having any kind of attack if you see my arms up above my head. I just normally don't contain myself too much when I'm speaking.
Is this what you wanted, Renee?
Yeah. So I wanted to start with this because, oh, let me close my door. Hold on. Of course, the lawn guy would get here. Hold on 1 second. Sorry.
And just to let you know, I've got you guys in gallery mode. So hopefully I'll be able to see you if you raise your hand or wave. But if not, again, just unmute yourself if you have a question, and we'll also be checking chat.
Okay, so sorry about that. So I wanted to start with this slide because hopefully there's something here that we can all relate to at some level, right? Our elders, our children, our parents, maybe neighbors, some of the special needs. that we see around us are part of our family and part of our lives. And then those cute little two faces in the bottom right are my kids. And so I always have to plug them in for good luck. So, but what I really wanted to focus on here was the picture of the superheroes, because that represents every woman I've ever met. It is rare that I have met a woman that isn't a care provider of some sort, whether it's even to their little furry friends or their furry family or a neighbor or loved one. And I think in care, there's a lot to be said about the superhero that's actually providing care. And we usually provide care at our own expense, and at oftentimes in today's world, we see it at the demise of the caregiver. So I wanted to take a moment and honor all of you as caregivers and as females and women that are all superheroes in the lives of your home, your family, your neighbor, and your extended family. So I just really wanted to honor that. We can take that down, Susan, now.
Okay.
As Susan mentioned, I am a professional healthcare advocate, and most people kind of aren't familiar with that. It's like, well, what does that mean, right? And I have clients, I have one client in particular that refers to me as her hired gun. And so my job is to go in and help my clients navigate whatever system they are working through with regard to healthcare. It may be the oncology department or cancer or special treatments, or it may be ancillary care supports like should I sell my home and move into assisted living? And so I do, as Susan mentioned, kind of cover a spectrum of work in care. But most of the work that I have found myself doing is working in the healthcare environment and literally maneuvering and navigating through the various components of the healthcare system. I am not a clinician. Oh, where did you go? Oh my gosh.
We're here.
You gotta love technology. What happened? I lost you.
I've got you in speaker view, so you're the biggest.
Suddenly the weather decided to show itself on my screen.
Oh.
I don't know who lives inside these machines, right? Anyway, I'm not a clinician of any sort at all. In fact, my background is in business, and it was through a series of life events and kind of serendipitous situations that I found myself assisting some people in that needed care. It was during the Obama administration, and we were changing healthcare as we knew it, and Obamacare was starting to come onto the scene, and a lot of people didn't know what that meant. And I lived in a small community in Southwest Oregon, and just through one client at a time started helping people maneuver through the healthcare system. Those clients were primarily 55 and over, or people with pretty severe chronic illness. And I ended up starting a business called Liberty Advocacy Group, and building a business of 39 employees covering 5 counties in Southwest Oregon, all doing healthcare advocacy work. So it was pretty interesting time. Part of my contract and my agreement in Oregon was I provided mental health supports for people that had suffered from mental health disease, and I assisted them in getting their meds managed and getting the treatment and care that they needed as well. So it really opened up my mind and my understanding of some of the deficits that we see in healthcare, and certainly the deficits we see in the mental health part of healthcare. So today I'm going to provide you with some information about that. And my goal is that everyone leaves here empowered and with some tips on how to care for yourselves, how to continue to be that superhero for yourself and for your loved ones. And I'm especially going to put a little twist on it and put an emphasis on mental health and some of the cognitive decline that we're going to continue to see in our society as the society ages. And as Susan said, if you have any questions, or if you want to raise your hand, she'll field those questions and I'm happy to answer. We can be interactive here, even though we're all in our little boxes. So I'm happy to be available for any questions. I want to start off by talking with you about a real situation that I have just experienced most recently through the quarantine, because that's been a big deal, continues to be a big deal. I've been the last 2 days on the phone with the governor's office and the California State Ombudsman's office, and just working on behalf of our seniors that are confined in quarantine, and some of the things that the systems want to maneuver our seniors through. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in depth later on in the conversation. But today I want to tell you about a gentleman that I met. In fact, Lindsay Levinson is an associate of mine. She's a young woman that's interested in health advocacy. So she's come on board and has been working with me. And we had an opportunity, we were called to meet a gentleman who has since passed, but his name was Dale. And Dale lived in a beautiful home up in El Dorado Hills, very, very nice, beautiful home, very well furnished, and beautiful artwork and some, you know, treasures in that house. And it was apparent that Dale had had a successful life and had done some traveling and really had led a successful life. Dale was young, he was 72. So a lot of my clients are in their 80s or 90s. So he was a little bit younger for my clientele, but we met with him and we were ushered kind of through the house into this back bedroom where this man was lying in his bed. And he's I think 5'11". And when we met him, he weighed 110 pounds. Yeah, it was pretty, not something that most of us would want to see or experience seeing. What was interesting about Dale was he was on his game. Like cognitively, he was completely engaged, completely engaging. He had a lot to say. He felt he was empowered in his own care. The other thing that was interesting was he had a nurse that came in. He had home health coming into his home a couple of times a week. And somewhere there was this disconnect about the failing that was going on in his health. He realized that he was not living successfully, but there was just this sense of control that he wanted to communicate that obviously wasn't true. And how many of you have heard of failure to thrive? Anybody heard of that? So I would tell you that in, the 15 years I've been doing this, I think Dale was the most severe case of failure to thrive that I'd ever seen. And he lost his wife a year prior and she passed away in his master bedroom, and he never went back in that room. That was her space, and he just took an alternative room in his house and basically decided to stay in bed. He obviously wasn't taking in nutrition, and he would get out of bed, maybe once or twice a day, put on a robe and go out onto his porch and smoke a cigar, kind of take a couple of hits off of a cigar and then go back to his room. And I wasn't sure, when I met Dale, he wasn't necessarily happy for us being there. A neighbor had invited us there. He had agreed for us to come in, but he really, really wanted to convince us that he had control of his healthcare. And so I left him. I'm a pretty straightforward speaker when it comes to my clients. And I left him basically with my card saying, hey, if the time comes that you feel like you want help and you want to change your quality of life and you want someone to kind of hold you accountable to the next steps towards wellness, you call me and I'm happy to do that. But what I won't do is sit at the foot of your bed and validate you, because you do have control and you have the ability to change this. So I'd say maybe 4 or 5 days went by, maybe a little longer, and I get a text from him, and he says, it was on a Sunday, and he says, so what would you do exactly? And so I kind of sent him a couple of little bullets and things that I felt was important to address. And the first thing was his meds cocktail. And I'm telling you, this guy was on medications. He had a doctor, a pharmacist on call. If he wanted it, he got it. which was just crazy to me. I had never seen a med cocktail like that ever in my life. So that was the first problem. He had a drug dealer, on call. The second problem was his nutrition, and that he had a nurse that was coming in to see him. And, I was perplexed about what her role was, because, if I were a medical provider and I came in and I saw, a 6 foot tall guy at 110 pounds, I would get them on a freaking IV, pardon my language. But, it definitely would not be something that I'd, take their temperature and leave the room. It's just not my nature, right? So I found that a little alarming, and I did let him know I would work with his nurse to develop a care plan that would assist him in leading towards wellness, and that I would help him take the steps towards that. So we kind of went back and forth. And as I mentioned, I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. So on Monday morning, first thing, I get a phone call from the nurse, and she says to me quite abruptly, so Dale told me that he hired you, which he had not, and you're gonna help him get better. And I said, okay, well, first of all, we're not in contract. So number one. Number two, though, I am glad you called, because it's not possible for me to assist him without nursing support. So I would hope that we would work together and blah, blah, blah. And so we had a long talk about a plan. And she said, well, I think he needs to be in the hospital. And it's like, you think? I think he probably should have been in the hospital 20 pounds ago. But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's declining pretty rapidly at this point, right? She said, well, I'm going to have the neighbor take him. Now we're in the quarantine. And I said, well, I would just call an ambulance, because I don't know that a neighbor, it's not going to do any good for her to take him. Just have the EMTs will triage him and they'll get him processed faster that way. But no, she called the neighbor and asked the neighbor to take him. And then the neighbor called me, and, to make a long story short, he ended up in the hospital with the ambulance, by the way. So now he's in the hospital. A couple of days go by. I'm in touch with him. I get a phone call, and they tell me, I'll never forget this. We ran these tests on him and he's good. And I'm like, good? Good for what? And so I said, well, okay, I'm not sure what tests you ran, but I mean, did we look at his renals? Because I have to assume he's in some level of renal failure at the weight he's at. And I just started really talking to this discharge social worker about this man. And I ultimately said, hey, let me ask you a question. If this was your dad or your husband, do you feel like you guys have done everything that you can do here? Because silence. I'm going to have the doctor call you. Okay. Now, without a doubt, there's a mental health component with this man. It's clear that there is, right? But, and what I was feeling, now I couldn't see them, I couldn't be there. Normally I would be in the hospital, I'd be reading these charts, and I'd be interfacing with some of the testing. But instead I'm kind of at the, mercy of them actually calling me or returning my calls. And most of that, and I want you to take note of this, most of that was because I would send a text to Dale and say, have the doctor call me. Had he not been cognitively aware and alert to be able to have that communication with me, I promise you he would have died then. He did ultimately die. And what he died of, after I pressed and pressed and pressed, they finally discovered that he had a blockage in his bowel that was very severe. They scheduled an emergency surgery, which I was a little concerned about that because of his weight, his ability to be able to survive a surgery. I was frankly a little surprised that an anesthesiologist would even take him on and he was so compromised. But they did, and they went in and they removed a portion of his lower intestine, and they determined he had gangrene. It had been there for a long time, and they sewed him up, called me, told me what they found, and said, we think we need to go back in and completely remove the bowel. Once again, I'm concerned about his compromise. Now Now we've got a really, really sick guy, really, really underweight, malnourished person who's had surgery, and you want to have a second surgery. This, I mean, is it registering with everyone? We're definitely in a danger zone, right? So I'm talking to them, and again, they're only talking to me because now he's in trouble, and they need someone to say, yeah, go ahead and do it, because he can't speak for himself, and he has a complete resuscitation order, 100%. Take all measures to resuscitate me, and they're thinking, well, heck, this guy's going to get really, really sick, and he's going to cost us a whole lot of money, and he's going to die anyway, but we have to take every measure to resuscitate him. What do you think, health advocate? And I said, I think you should do whatever he documented you're supposed to do. Didn't you review his post and his advance directive when he came into the hospital? I mean, he's been there 7 days now. And they were like, well, kind of begrudgingly, but now they're kind of looking for someone to get them off the hook. They did decide to go forward and do the second surgery. He came out of the second surgery on a vent, and he died. No surprise. He was, I would say, in my opinion, from the first surgery, the fact that he was there for a period of 6 days before they even found the blockage, who knows how long he'd had that. He had been under the care of a home health nurse for over 6 months. So who knows? And his weight was just plummeting. He had lost 30% of his body mass in less than 6 months from the time that nurse took him. So I tell you that story because I want you to understand that we have to be involved in our care, and we have to be involved in the care of our loved ones. Because if you think that the protocols in the hospital and in the care system is operating in your best interest, you're wrong. You're wrong. Number one. Number two, hospitals are not a place where you get care and where you get better. Hospitals are a place where you get treatment, okay? And there's a big difference. Treatment means there's a procedure, or you're gonna go through certain kind of protocols, but you're not gonna get care there. And then in the way our current system is developed today, they're gonna send you to skilled nursing where you're gonna get care. Well, you're not gonna get care there either. You're gonna get care first and foremost by taking care of yourself. That's where you're gonna get care. Start with taking care of yourself. Number two, start with understanding what your care requirements are. All of us have our own healthcare issues and our own healthcare concerns, whether we're in great health and we're just a little worried, maybe I had an aunt that had dementia and I'm a little worried that, at 90, I'm going to have dementia. Whatever that looks like for you, make certain that you understand what that looks like and how you can best combat that for yourself. And if you're caring for a loved one, if you're caring for someone in need, or your husbands or your kids, engage them as well. Make certain that you know what your care plan is, and be willing to look at it every year, maybe a couple of times a year, depending on what your cognitive or what your care needs really are, what your health level, chronic illness, or whatever you're dealing with, right? But it all begins, honestly, with self-care. It really does. I gave out some information in the last talk, some statistics, and I'm going to kind of review those. So not to scare anyone, but just so that you know. So by 2030, 10 years from now, just 10 years is a blink of an eye, right? 1 in 5 Californians will be 65 or older. 1 in 5. How many people are on this call? 16. All of us are either in that realm or going to be in it. Even Lindsay's going to be approaching that. And she's the youngest person, I think, on the call. By 2035, 15 years, 1 in 5 US citizens will be 65 or over. That's a big number. 1 in 9 of those people will be have some kind of cognitive decline. So 1 in 9 out of the whole group, which again, big number. By the way, men will suffer cognitive decline at a greater level than women, according to the statistics coming out by the CDC. And 20% of people 65 and older will experience a mental health concern of some sort. And that can be depression all the way to, schizophrenia or whatever. Maybe they've had a long treatment of mental health concerns. So, we have, we have some things going on. And again, the way we can maneuver through that, it begins with how we take care of ourselves and how we put together the right systems and programs to best support us. One of the other things that we're dealing with is while the population is aging, so are our doctors. So, which becomes a little bit scary. 1/3 of the practitioners today that are practicing today, 1/3 will be 65 or older in 10 years. And they are predicting by 2032, 12 years from now, that 122,000 doctors will retire out of the system. We already know with COVID-19, they asked a lot of doctors to come back in, and we already know that there's a shortage of practitioners. But there definitely is a little over 100,000, about 122,000 that should retire out by 2032. So again, why do I share this with you? Not to scare you, but just so that you know, if you fit in that demographic, and we all do, and our loved ones do, how do we best prepare to maneuver through that? How do we get through this aging population in the best way that we can? So I put out a little flyer, and I'm happy to make it available to everyone. And it's a 5-tip sheet for healthcare advocacy. And Susan's going to put a copy up for us.
That's one of the things you sent me there, Renee, in the email? Okay, let me pull that up. You want me to share that now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me find it first. Okay, so is that tip sheet?
Yeah.
All right.
It should be called
Let
tip.
me share my screen.
Okay. So here's a couple of things. And again, I'll make certain everybody gets a copy of this. So number one, know what you want from your appointment. Before you go in and see your doctor, write down your talking points. Even if it's on a little piece of paper, even if it's on your hand, these are the things I want to talk about. And if you have an opportunity, make a copy for the doctor so that the doctor knows. And when they usher you into that room for the 11 minutes you're going to have with your doctor, by the way, you're going to have 11 minutes. For those 11 minutes, use them well and try to make certain that you talk about the things on your concern list, right? Don't be shy. This time is about you, and take advantage of that. Oftentimes what I've seen, myself included, we make those appointments, they're 6 weeks, we made it 6 weeks ago. We were really getting up every morning to a, neck ache, and now we're in front of the doctor and, I haven't even noticed that neck ache. And now the doctor comes in and says, so how are we doing? And our response is, good, how are you? And that's just because we were brought up to be polite. But the truth is, we're there for a reason. And we need to make certain that we're in charge of why we're in that appointment. There's this thing called white coat syndrome. Anyone have that? I even have it. It's just this thing where it's like, well, when someone, most of us were brought up that, hey, if you can't say something good, don't say anything, right? So when the doctor asks us, we're like, oh, we're doing okay. Oh, I go to the doctor with my mom, and this happens a lot with the aging population, the elders. This is like a social time for her. She loves her doctor. So the doctor comes in and starts asking her how she's doing. And my mom, she's telling her how great she is. And I'm like, wait, that wasn't the conversation we had at breakfast this morning. Are you kidding me right now? So before we go into the doctor, I usually remind her, Mom, these are the things we want to cover with Dr. Lee today. Don't forget. Because I know you love her and you just want to chit chat, but you really have a short time with her. So know why you're in the appointment and what you want out of the appointment. All of us have left a medical appointment thinking, oh shoot, I forgot that. And then we think, well, hopefully most of us can email now and get some response, but it's important that you know why you're there and try to maximize your time. I think it's also important, step 2, to respectfully state what you need. When you sit down with your doctor, if you're having an appointment, I had an appointment one time. I was meeting a new gynecologist, and I really wasn't too keen on meeting him in the exam room. You know, I'm in my little paper gown, the stirrups are out, you know, and I'm going to meet my doctor. And it's like, I don't really, that's not the first appointment I want with my gynecologist. So I had asked for a meeting and a consultation in his office, which, by the way, you can ask any doctor, and they get paid for that meeting, just like if you're in the exam room. So you can ask for a consult in the doctor's office, or maybe they'll choose to do it in an exam room, but you can have that consult without going into a procedure. So if that's what you want, make certain you ask. Also, I think it's good to let the doctor know what you require of them. If you're looking for a doctor that is going to be your healthcare champion, and these are your concerns, you're going to go back to your little list. You're going to give it to the doctor, and you're going to talk about these things. I think being straightforward with the doctor enhances that relationship, and it allows them to now know that, number one, you're willing to take steps towards your own wellness, and they're there to help you. And it really changes the dynamic of that relationship. So don't feel shy in asking the doctor what you need. And I promise you, in most cases, they're going to deliver to you the best that they can. Julie, did you have a question? No? Okay. The more complex the diagnosis, the greater the need is for a meeting. Okay. Lynn? I see Lynn saying something, but I don't.
I think she's trying to unmute. There she goes.
Okay.
I don't know. I was just conversing. We were talking about, yeah. Renee, I just think you are just an angel here on earth for doing what you do, because I've seen a lot of elderly people that have been really kind of screwed over by the systems that, you know, should have been protecting them. And it's awesome that you do that. And your whole story about that guy and the cuckoo measures they took at the end. I saw some stats sometime about the amount of Medicare dollars that are spent in mainly the last 10 days of people's lives. And it's because they didn't advance plan. I mean, nobody helped them. And, you know, to have somebody like you, honestly, I think you're just amazing. What you do is amazing.
Thank you. Well, the step 3, what I was saying was, the more complex a diagnosis, the more important, in fact, the more required it is that you take time to understand what's going to happen. So I had a client that I was serving who had cancer. Now, she was 68-year-old female in great shape, played tennis every single day. And one day she'd started having a really bad pain in her side, and she didn't understand what was going on. But the pain got worse and worse and worse. And it was so severe, but by 2 o'clock in the morning, she had a neighbor call an ambulance because it was really getting bad. She's a Kaiser member. She went to Kaiser, and lo and behold, she had a mass on her lung. They did an MRI. To make matters even worse, she also had a mass behind her left eye, which was particularly interesting because, you know, those are very different places. The treatment plan would be very different for them, and how we were going to move forward. She was concerned because she didn't feel like she was being heard when she was asking questions. So she hired me. She heard about me through, I think, a referral, and hired me to help her maneuver through the complexity of her care needs. And there's 3 words that I have here that I want you to understand. A treatment plan, which is, in her case, how are we going to move forward? It involved an oncologist. How are we going? It was cancer, by the way. They did do biopsy. It was cancer. How are we going to treat this? And the eye obviously is going to be treated differently than the lung. So there was a question about that. What I asked for was a meeting of all of the specialists to come together in a conference room with my client and talk about the treatment plan, the care plan, and her recovery plan, and set her expectation as well as set their expectation. And I have to say, they did it. They came together a little begrudgingly at first, One of the doctors that we were gathering in the room, and I was making some notes, and he said, "I don't like that you're writing everything down." And I just started laughing. And I said, "Doctor, I'm writing everything down because I'm not a clinician. And our goal is that we are compliant to the program that we're going to outline here today. And I need to write everything down so we know what we're agreeing to." So it's not to hold anyone, hostage. I recognize this is science, and science is not a perfect science, but we do need to understand what we're talking about. Neither one of us are educated in medicine. So he kind of calmed down. I do have to say, he ended up sending me referrals. Like, he loved the work I did with this client, right? So we determined her care plan, and in fact, the lead oncologist became the person that was going to spearhead her care. So in the room, we had the eye specialist, and I can't even tell you what that doctor was. It was just this really long eye doctor. And then we had the lung, upper respiratory, heart. We had a cardiologist in the room because of the effect on the lung with the heart. We had the oncologist in the room. We had our primary care doctor in the room. And everybody, we had to figure out, like, who's going to lead the plan. So the oncologist was the obvious person because he was going to be delivering the medication that was going to treat the cancer. Number one. Number two, it was determined that they would treat the lung and then go back to the eye to decide whether or not what the next step would be for the eye. But they would not treat both at the same time. They wanted to see how the lung responded, and then they would deal with the eye. She wasn't having any sight impairment. She could still see, and was actually surprised that that was even there. So that left some questions on the table as well. But we were going to treat that at a different time. The care plan, if I'm recalling, she had her therapies every day, 5 days a week, 6 hours a day for like 8 weeks. So she had a pretty aggressive treatment plan. And then her care plan was self-care at home. She had a little bit of help. I assisted her, but I'm telling you, she flew through the program like crazy. And then her recovery plan was really just taking good care of her health. She stopped eating red meat and really started looking at a vegetarian diet and trying to put the best nutrients into her body that she could. From day one, she continued to walk and try to get as much exercise as she could. And she really managed her discomfort very, very well. She did have nausea, but they assisted her with that. And she actually went through the program beautifully. When we went, I mean, she's the ideal, person. It's every doctor's dream. When we went back in to look at the eye, in fact, the cancer was gone. So the treatment of the lung, the therapies in the lung, and again, I don't know the science, but for whatever reason, it also did treat the eye. And I have to tell you this, at the tail end of her treatment plan, she was back on the tennis court almost every day. Like, she is a warrior. And I want her to come to PWN because I want everyone to meet her at some point. She's just a great gal. And, I mean, she's who we all want to be if we ever got sick, I'll tell you that.
Hey, Renee, just to let you know, we've got about 5 minutes to wrap up. So just to kind of get you.
So I'm going to just breeze through this. Learn the language of care. Care is a business. It has its own language, like every business does. Learn the language of care. If you go on my website, silverlining.com, there is an entire directory of terms, and I'm going to put that in a little ebook and eventually get that out to everybody, but that exists. And understand the language of care. And if you need help, get professional help. There is the National Association of Healthcare Advocacy Consultants. They're located right here in the Bay Area, and they can recommend lots of different health advocates. We have nurses, doctors, all kinds of different people that are doing healthcare advocacy. So if you need that help, reach out and get an advocate. And if I can help in any way, do that. Feel free to call me. The other thing, there are a couple of other quick things I wanted to go over. HIPAA. So HIPAA is interesting. And when you're dealing with a cognitive impairment, the HIPAA, I've got a HIPAA policy document that I go over with all of my clients. But HIPAA really says this. HIPAA is a Privacy Act, Federal Privacy Act for your healthcare. If someone has a need to know, you you can stay within the HIPAA guidelines. So as an example, all the doctors that I just described in the treatment of my client, they didn't have all signed HIPAA agreements. Everyone in the room had a need to know. The same thing with her family. And so if you have someone that maybe has a cognitive impairment or dementia, and you don't, and you're told, I can't talk to you about it because HIPAA won't allow me to, what you need to do is always just explain, this is why I have a need to know. Maybe you have a family member that was in a car accident or got hurt or whatever. If you can describe and you can prove the need to know, you can bypass the Privacy Act. So just keep that in mind if that comes up. Sometimes they use it, gatekeepers use it, so they don't provide information to people, and they tend to stand behind the HIPAA Privacy Act. But again, you can maneuver around that if you have a reasonable need to know. So, and then the last thing, and I thought of this because Ellie reached out to me after our last talk, and she said, hey, I have a doctor, I don't like the doctor, I don't feel like I'm treated well by the doctor, it's a specialist, and I've asked the office to switch doctors, and they've told me we don't do that. And I wanted to make certain everybody understands that client rights is a real thing. If you Google California patient rights, there's a list. This is the one I give to all of my clients, and it really just goes through what your rights are as a patient and what you can stand on as an advocate for yourself or for someone that you love. All of these are taken right out of the California Patient Rights Agreement. And if a doctor, if you're in a medical environment and they're not, and you feel like, oh, something's a little awry, I don't feel like I'm being treated correctly, ask them if you can see their patient rights agreement. And then highlight the one that you feel, if you're not being treated with dignity and respect or whatever it is, make certain, I'd like to review line item 5. I feel like I'm overpaying. And I feel like I'm overpaying because I did this research and somehow I feel like there's a little financial exploitation going on here, whatever it may be. And again, if you need help, there's a lot of advocates that just specialize in patient rights. So, and then last, really, really quickly, let's talk about COVID today. I have a client that is in assisted living, got a phone call yesterday, and they said, hey, the public health department is mandating that they come in, and they want to test all seniors in assisted living. And I'm like, no. I mean, again, I feel like that goes against civil rights. The public health departments are receiving federal money for doing testing. If my client agrees to testing, then I think that's his business, and he's completely cognitively able to do that. But I don't think because he lives in assisted living and in an environment where there's been no symptoms and there's been no cases of COVID, that it should be a requirement that he receives a test, because I feel like that kind of goes against his civil liberties. And step number 2 will be they're going to require him and mandate him to take a vaccine. And that is also something that I will stand hard against for all of us, because never should we be forced by our government to take vaccines. And I'm not saying vaccines are bad, believe me, but I don't feel like because we have 60,000 seniors in Santa Clara or in Sacramento County in assisted living, and at $150 a piece, that's easy money. That's like shooting fish in a bowl as far as I'm concerned. So yes, the public health department wants to go in and test all of those people, and I just think that it's wrong. So I have been on the phone the last few days trying to speak against this battle and get people involved to shift that and say, no, it would be on a volunteer basis. I don't think because you're a senior living in assisted living that you should be required to have testing or the vaccine. And not that they're forcing the vaccine yet, but I predict that would be the next step. So if you are in agreement, get online, send an email to your governor, send an email to your mayor, and let them know. I fear for what we have done with a lot of our seniors in assisted living. They've been sequestered in their rooms, taking their meals by themselves since March. With very few, they bring them out 4 or 6 at a time, and they separate them, 6 feet apart, and they call that socializing. Well, most of them can't even hear each other at 6 feet apart. So I'm just worried that we have this fragile community that now is really, really being mistreated under COVID-19 and some of the mandates that are coming out about COVID-19. And my response was, hey, go out and start, testing the people that are on the street corners holding signs. Start there, and start with the ones that aren't wearing masks. Start there. But I don't think that they should start with, our frail elders that are living in assisted living, and begin there with this testing. I just don't. So anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. I didn't mean to get political, but hopefully everyone understands my heart's desire for that. And I think I'm done.
Thank you. I saw Jenna waving her hand. Did you have a question, Jenna?
Yeah, my mom got tested. She lives at senior apartments, so they're not considered assisted living, but they had a person working in the kitchen that came down with COVID. So they did come in and test all of them. And so far, all the tests have come back negative. They haven't gone through all of them and stuff. But I was going to ask Renee if she knew. My daughter-in-law said that if she tested positive, if my mother tested positive, it might be that she would be taken to Arco Arena. Do you know? She said in nursing homes, if anybody tests positive, whether they have symptoms or not, they're going to be taken to Arco Arena and isolated, and that's the hospital, the makeshift hospital.
They're breaking down Arco Arena right now. They've seen a total of 12 people the entire time they've been out there. So they're in the process of breaking that down. That was the plan originally. And as you mentioned, one of the things that I said yesterday was, hey, if there's someone in it that's showing symptoms of COVID in an assisted living environment, it is communal living, then by all means, I think that coming in and saying we feel it's necessary to test. Again, I think testing should not be a mandate. These people are paying $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to live there, and you're going to mandate their testing? Really? There's just something. I would tell you, I don't think there's anyone in this group that would enjoy being mandated to test. And I'm going to assume our elders won't enjoy it either. So, but if they agree that, yes, okay, that makes sense, I'm willing to have the test, then I think, again, let's honor them with dignity and honor who they are as individuals and let them decide. I also think it's important that the families do understand, if my loved one tests positive, what's the next steps? And my understanding, it can be 14-day isolation. That's really starting to become problematic for our seniors. One of the things that's been going on is it's been several months now that they're not having their routine checkups with their doctors, right? So we are starting to see elevated anxiety and some sickness and lack of care. All of these facilities are understaffed, and not only are they understaffed, but a lot of the staffing isn't equipped to even recognize if someone's sick. I have a client right now that I'm struggling with. She ended up hospitalized on Sunday unnecessarily because they didn't recognize that she was taking on fluid and she has congestive heart failure. So you know what they did today? This is a 78-year-old female who's independent. Today they said, do you want to put her on hospice? And I'm like, what? No, I want to put her on Lasix. This was a doctor asking me. I'm like, no, I want you to put her on IV Lasix, drive the fluid off of her heart, and let's get her back in her car cruising over to Arden Fair Mall for lunch. That's what I want to do. And he's like, okay. He didn't realize how active she was. It's the craziest thing ever. So protect these people.
Yeah. And yourself.
Yeah, and yourself, and know these rights. Know the rights that you have.
So I hate to cut you off, but let's give her a hand. She had one of my favorite sayings is, "What is valuable is what you say is just the tip of the iceberg of what you know." And Renee obviously has a lot of information as well as a lot of heart. So I'm just going to end this because I didn't even know a healthcare advocate existed. Actually, 2 years ago, I was contacted by the National Association of Healthcare Advocates out of the Bay Area that Renee mentioned. They have a nationwide network of advocates. So one I would recommend, if you have a loved one in or yourself in the Sacramento area, contact Renee. She knows a lot of people, but also if she can't help you, the National Association knows advocates all across the country that can help. And I would also recommend, don't wait to the last minute. One of the things I've heard consistently from healthcare advocates, people are looking for a healthcare advocate when their loved one's in the hospital.
Yeah.
What I would recommend doing is, even if you have a son or daughter, and I don't, and you're saying, well, they can help take care of me when I get to be older, they probably don't have the experience of an advocate. And it's like, if you're going to go to a court for either a civil case or, you know, a court case, you don't go advocate for yourself, right? Because one, you're kind of emotionally involved, and two, you don't know about the law system. And I will say, based on what I've known in the last 2 years, we don't know about the medical system. So I feel like we should at least investigate getting an advocate for ourselves, and do that sooner rather than later, because you want to know, like, and trust your advocate. So when you go to the doctor and get a hard to hear diagnosis, you know who to call. You're not Googling on what to do or who to call. So that's just my 2 cents. I really appreciate Renee sharing that again, because I thought this was a great presentation. I'm anxious to get this out on Facebook so other people can hear. And Renee, I will tell you this, because I know you've talked about this. I think, you know, what you just shared and how to do this would be a great course. I think we've talked about this. One, learning a little bit more, so we are a little bit more educated, but also, you know, having the option of an advocate. So definitely think that was awesome information.
Thank you.
All right, so let me make a couple of announcements first, and then we're going to do our 30 seconds. We are going to do the Zoom call again for the next meeting, which is on July, and we have kind of a late second Tuesday. It's going to be the 14th. I don't have the speaker just yet, but we will make that announcement. So again, for those of you who want to come to the Randy Peters, that will be available. I think they did a great job in making sure that we were socially distant and managing the food situation. For those of you who don't feel quite ready yet, we will have the Zoom call. Now, I have to talk to the board. I'm actually talking to a videographer about getting some new equipment, maybe seeing if that will help us with the logistics. So stay tuned for that. We don't know quite what's going to happen yet, but that's our plan. The second thing I wanted to mention is on the Placer Women's Network, which I'm going to have to share now. Oh, am I still sharing? I guess I'm still sharing. So let me go ahead and minimize this. So you see the Placer Women's Network website. If you go under meetings, you'll see a speaker proposal. So for those of you who have a wealth of knowledge and feel it would be valuable for the Placer Women Network members to hear about, we would love to hear from you. So all you would need to do is fill out your name, email, phone. We are trying to give priority to our members, because obviously we want to hear from our members first rather than outside speakers. But if you know somebody who is not a member yet, you can invite them to do a presentation as well. If they have a preference of live and or virtual, you can just check. Some people prefer Zoom, some people prefer live, so you can actually have that as an option. Upload a little bio about, a topic description of what you want to talk about, 3 to 5 bullets of what people will learn if they attend, and then a brief bio about yourself. And this is going to go before the board for evaluation. Now, I will share that if you don't feel like you have enough content for about a 30-minute presentation, tag team with somebody else who has a similar field as you, where you might kind of do a yin and yang thing. That might be kind of fun as well. So think about that. And again, what we don't want to hear is a 30-second infomercial about you. And I think most of you are cognitive of that. What we do want to hear is like 25 minutes or so of really good content. And then at the end, you can say, oh, by the way, I offer this. I mean, that's perfectly fine. You're all here to build your businesses, and we're fine with that. But we definitely want the information to be standalone, content-rich information. Okay, so keep that in mind. Again, because we are doing Zoom and we are doing the live meetings as well, so we're doing actually 2 meetings per month. So we've almost doubled the number of speakers we need to intake for a year. But I think that's awesome, because I think we all agree that this is not only about learning something new, but it's also about getting to know each other through the networking. So please consider that. If you have any questions, contact me. Or any member of the board actually, and we will definitely try to answer your questions. Okay, any questions on that part? Hopefully that was easy. Okay, so let me go ahead. Where'd my control go? I'm going to unmute everybody. And Esther, you there? Since you know who our
Yes.
members are, would you mind conducting the 30-second commercial thing again? And what I'll do is, since Lorraine isn't here, I'll be your timer today.
Okay.
Okay, so let me go
Could I have everybody on the screen?
let's see. Do you see that? I think that's
No, we need to get rid of the share.
okay. Stop share.
There you
I
go.
think, let me unmute everybody if I unmute all. Okay, everybody. Oh, hang on. I think everybody should be unmuted, but if not, you can unmute yourself.
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm going to take us out of speaker mode. There we go, gallery mode. How's that?
Yep.
All right.
I think we've lost a couple people,
Oh,
but
I think I lost Renee. I'm going to embed her again.
okay.
Okay, so go ahead. And I've got the 30
Okay.
seconds.
Awesome. So you're going to count, Susan, right? Okay, so we have, how about Kelly Murphy? Hi.
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hey, I'm with South Texas Lighthouse for the Blind, which basically is selling office supplies made by people who are blind. And we usually work through the federal government, but I can work with anybody. I've been mostly doing PPE, but one thing I wanted to share with you all is it's the Wild West right now. There are companies left and right making PPE, coming out with stuff. So be careful with what you're buying. Be careful with what you're using. The most recent thing that came out was yesterday. There's some sanitizer that came from Mexico. Careful with what you have. Stick with this tried and true brands that you know that are most likely available in our group. And going outside saving 50 cents is not good for you at this time. So that's my PSA today.
Perfect.
Thank you, Kelly. And then we have Julie Knudsen.
Hi, everybody. I'm with Zap Design and I'm a graphic designer. Things have picked up, so I mean, that's better. No events, of course, are going on, nothing until the end of the year. But yeah, things are going better. And so, I mean, and I've been telling my clients, if you need something, tell me. You don't have to, I won't charge you until after we print or we get going, or because it's time to figure out what's going to be your next step. And that might be a Zoom meeting, it might be a trifold, it might be redesigning something for you, so it's something that I've been trying to get my clients in queue, and they're actually going in queue finally, so that's great. Thank you.
Okay, we have Dr. Lynn.
I'm Dr. Lynn Johnson, and I'm a health coach with Optavia, and it's a lifestyle program that helps people become the best version of themselves in every way. And there's a clinically proven weight loss program, and as you're doing that, we help you to establish healthy habits for lifelong transformation. And I loved Renee's talk today because you know what? It is so important. Personal health. We've got to take care of ourselves. Nobody else is going to do it for us. And so I get to help people, and I get to celebrate with people every single day their awesome results.
Thank you, Dr. Lynn. Okay, Kay Pena, hi.
Hi, I'm Kay Pena. My business is Caregiving Naturally, and learning about a doTERRA essential oil makes sense, S-E-N-S-E. It makes sense, S-C-E-N-T-S, and it makes sense, C-E-N-T-S. So I have a special offer today. I can send you a flyer about Aptiva and Copaiba, which are both oils that help with stress and anxiety. Just send the email to kcaregiving@iclouds.com. My other business is Juan's art business. And right now he still has free 12 classes on YouTube. And if you want those classes, just send an email to pena.freeartclasses@gmail.com. I'm Kay. My husband's Juan.
Perfect.
Thanks, Kay.
Right on the money.
Yeah, there you go. Jenna Woodruff.
Hi, I have two businesses too. Juice Plus I've been selling it forever. I've been taking it forever, and I just love it. It's just nutrition that makes sense because it just fills in the nutritional gaps of what we're not getting in our diet. And my other business is For Life Transfer Factors. I'm just honored to represent a company that has something that I just really feel like is a missing link. It really was for me and my health. And I've told you all this before, but my allergies are gone this season. And it just feels so good to be able to go out and mow and work outside and water in my garden and not sneeze my brains out. So if anybody's having trouble with that, talk to me. And it might be an easy fix. I don't know, but I just love the company and I love being able to help people with their health. And great job, Renee. It was a wonderful talk.
Thanks, Jenna. And then we have Pat Gakatan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Gakatan with Feng Shui. I'm a speaker and trainer and working on a book. And I really enjoyed Renee's talk today. I've enjoyed Renee for the last year or so because of all of her knowledge. So I have been trying to, during this shut-in time, just try and look for positive things that I could do to really help myself. That's why today's talk is amazing, because now I'm really going to take the time to start working on what I need to do for healthcare, because I am in that category that's over 65. So it's really important for me. So good luck to everyone.
Thank you, Pat. And then we have Barbara Falkenberg in the pool.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm giving you a visual.
don't drop your phone.
No, I had, yeah, that's why I got my phone on there too, because I get kicked off Zoom sometimes. But yes, I wanted to have this visual because I actually can do this for as long as I want, actually. But going on your annual vacation, you got to remember it's good for your health too. If you're looking out for yourself and your health, don't miss your annual vacation. I'm sure you postponed it, but if you take an annual vacation, it reduces your risk of heart disease, 32%, which is big potatoes, not small potatoes. So keep that in your mind, plan a trip. That's all I have to say. And it would be nice if you did it through me, because I could probably get you the best for less, but that's another story. So thank you. And that talk was so good. I heard it twice now. You're so important, Renee. You are so important.
Awesome. Thank you, Barbara. And we have another Barbara. Who do we have on the other line? Barbara?
Was that
Barbara
your guest,
Falkenberg?
Barbara?
Can't hear you, Barbara.
Oh, that is me. It was my cell phone and it kicked me off of Zoom. I don't know why the picture's still there.
Okay, it's still
That's
there.
why I put it on 2 devices.
Okay, thank you. And then Renee, do you have anything else you want to share with us, please?
Yeah, 30 seconds.
Unmute yourself, Renee. Thank you.
So, you know, I want to thank everyone for your kind words and your support of what I do. I love it so much. My business, Renee and Company, I do assist with private practice work and take clients. Lindsay, as I mentioned, is my associate, so she's also learning and taking some clients. But I also have a program called the Silver Lining Network, which is Angie's List for Care. And I'm getting ready to launch that. And when I do, you guys will be the first to see it. So stay tuned.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee. And then we have Deidre Trudeau. Sorry about that. Deidre. Unmute yourself, please. Yep.
Hi, everyone. So glad to see everyone. We had that meeting last week or the week before, and then we got booted off, so we had our own little mini network, and I loved it. So I own Brush of Creativity, and I party creatively, and I help you to party creatively, too. I think number one in healthcare is self-care, and I help guide you and lead you through art practices that help to soothe you, heal you, help you to understand who you are, what your emotions are about, and it's just an extremely freeing and very therapeutic process. So this is my avocado, and I'm going to be teaching this one soon if anybody wants to join in. It's a drawing lesson and a painting lesson. So this is my Bravocado avocado for everybody who's making it through and being happy. And I love the vacation. You just made me think of inner vacation, so I'm going to add that to some of my stuff. But through aroma, color, art, everything put together, that's what we're all about in how we treat art therapy. Deidre Trudeau, Brush of Creativity, thank you.
Okay, then we have one of our newest members, Lindsay Levinson. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so
Everybody
much.
give her a great welcome.
I'm so sorry about my video. My internet's really laggy, so I didn't use the video because I was freezing constantly. But my name is Lindsay Levinson, and I'm actually an SRES real estate agent. And that means that I have niched myself in helping seniors and caregivers with the transitions that we go through when we are when we need to right size and we're going through health issues, which is one of the reasons why I love working with Renee, because I really do care about the people I work with, and I want to be the best resource possible in every which way. So I've helped her, I'm starting to help with the Silver Lining Network, and I just want to know all these amazing people so that I can be able to refer my clients to all of you. So that's what I do and a little bit about me, and I really look forward to getting to know all of you. So thank you so much.
Welcome. And then we have Susan Dakuzaku.
Okay, so hi, Susan Dakuzaku, Two Businesses. Actually, I'm having my first wine tasting in 2 weeks in July. We're doing it outside so we can social distance. We'll have, instead of a buffet, we'll have like individual plates. So there's a way to do this safely. So if you're in the mood, outside is a great time to do something like that. We have light wines all the way to the nice reds. So let me know if you're interested. The other business I have is getyournettinggear.com. I've been actually leading a lot of mastermind groups on strategizing on how to make the most of the internet. And again, I think this is kind of like the silver lining to all this is that now that more of us are looking to the internet to get business, it's been there all along. We just kind of thought it was unnecessary. Now it's becoming more and more important. So if you know somebody who would like a little bit more advice on how to get more out of the internet, I offer a diagnostic for free for your website and as well as other strategy sessions. So Susan at getyournettinggear.com. That's me.
Thank you, Susan. And so what I want to say to everyone is no one plans on legal situations or problems. But when life throws you a curveball, we can make sense of that, those legal complexities. I'm Esther Marcelino Lee, independent associate with Legal Shield. So
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Yay, perfect. Thank you all for keeping within the time bound. We have about 7 minutes left before we end this meeting. So again, as I mentioned earlier in this call, we have been fortunate enough to be growing during this whole 3-month hiatus, I'll call it. So if you know other people who would be interested in joining us, they're welcome to join us on Zoom. Live meetings, they count. So as of this month, we still require, guests can come. They cannot do their 30-second commercial until they join. However, they are welcome to check out a meeting either virtually or live. The criteria is now 2 meetings, and then we ask you to make a decision. So if you know somebody who is looking for a way to network, I really love the variety of members that we have and the fact that all of you are heart-centric with your business. I know you're passionate about what you do. So please think of some people in your circle of influence and invite them to come join us. I think this is actually almost a good thing for us as PWN because it helped us, I'm going to not say forced us, it helped us to adopt Zoom as another platform to learn and grow about each other. And I feel that getting back to the live meetings has been exciting. Again, we're going to be practicing social distancing as long as it is recommended. So again, think of other people that you would like to invite. Please consider submitting a topic for consideration for a presentation because we are hungry for information that is one helpful, compelling, and makes us feel good. I mean, all of us, I think these kind of social gatherings, as social as it is important. So thank you again for being here. I will ask, Esther, do you have another comment that you'd like to share?
Yes, I just wanted to say too, as you know, we only have one business associated with what we do. So it has to be something that is not on our list. We can have several people that do healthcare, of course, different things, but can't be from the same company. So if you have any question about that, just go to our directory and take a look and see who's on there. And that'll help you to determine whether or not that person can be eligible to join us.
Am I still doing I think I turned off share screen. Let me just show you something, because I think this is really important. This happened, and I will wager, I'm not a betting person, but I will wager that many of you have not updated your profile in a while, right? Especially the newer members. Okay, so let me see if I can minimize. I just wanted to show you how easy it is and why it's important. Barbara, did you update your profile?
Not yet.
So, not yet. Okay, and I'll show you why it's important. So I'm logged in, and you log in, you'll see over here on the website where it says member login. Once you log in, you can update your profile. So you've got your contact information, how you're listed in the directory with pictures, etc. A little bit about you, your bio, your social media, so you can update this as often as you want. The more the better. And you can upload a myriad of pictures. So like for those like Julie, you can upload a portfolio of your stuff if you haven't done that already. So think about using that, this directory as a way for people to find you, because if I go over here to the directory and I type in travel, because I know that is Barbara's business, these are who people come up. Now, Pat, I don't know why you're there for travel, but you're doing a travel video. I think maybe that was why. So anyway, if you need to make sure the keywords that people would use to find you are in your profile somewhere, whether it's in this little brief description or in the major description. So like if I type in Pat, somewhere in here there must be a reference to travel, at least that's my assumption. So make sure your keywords are in your description, because if people are on a call or they meet you at a live meeting and they go, who was that person? Because they just met 20 people they didn't know. Who was that person that did this? They should go here. And I think, as Jana mentioned, we want to make sure that who we get our healthcare products, whether it's supplements or sanitizers or whatever. If people are looking for sanitizers, is the word sanitizer in your profile? So here is your to-do list. Please update your profile with new pictures or content so that we can find you. Because I get calls all the time, who was that person that did this? And I say, I think I know who it was, and I go here and I can't find your name. It should pop up when we type in your keywords. Okay, so that's, I got off my soapbox, and that was it.
Susan,
Yes.
Susan, this is Deidre.
Yes.
Hey, so to attach onto that as a tech talk, not only does it help people find you when you're on PWN, but it also goes into the general social media. And this is what's considered a backlink. So you definitely want to put all your links, Facebook, whatever you're using, your websites on PWN, and it's backlinking, which will do two things. It'll help you be found to the world, but it'll also help PWN gain traffic recognition through Google. And the more traffic there is, the more Google cares about you and the more Google presents you to the world.
Yeah, good point.
Done.
And the other thing too is if you have control of your website, say you're a proud member of PWN. And again, link to the PWN website. So Deidre mentioned those backlinks and crosslinks. Those are really important. They help you, they help the group, they help other members. So any other comments? Kay, do you have anything? Oh, Renee. You gotta unmute yourself, honey. There we go.
If someone wants to do a table at one of the live meetings, how do we secure that?
So you would contact Lorraine, who is our program coordinator.
Okay.
So, book it with her. And again, I think we're going to do 5. We only did 4 this last time because it was our first meeting back, but I think we're doing 5 per meeting. But those are only going to be at the live meetings. We may discuss and may have kind of like a spotlight during these Zoom calls, because I think we might have a little time where we can maybe give somebody 2 minutes. So it wouldn't be the same as a show and tell, but certainly you can kind of do a virtual show and tell. We'll talk about that. But yeah, contact Lorraine. She's the one that's coordinating the trade tables.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think we are right
Susan,
at
a quick reminder.
Yes.
A quick reminder to everyone, check out the Facebook page, because that's where we make all our announcements. And I announce everything that's going on with the Roseville Chamber. And I'm going to be posting something today about a collaborative advertising opportunity through a chamber discount. So be sure to get on there and check it out often. Like, go there once a day.
Yep, and like things and share things and all that social media stuff. Do the magic. Do the magic. Okay, it is 1 o'clock. Thank you, ladies, for being here. You've made my day. We still have some time left. Again, keep in touch with each other, and we will see you in hopefully 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thanks.
Great job, Renee. Thank you.